What's going on, guys? Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to this channel, we essentially talk about mental health through pop culture. My name's Captain Nostalgia. I'm a writer, podcaster, and the director of Horrific Hope, our film festival. As first of its kind to be horror-centric, mental health focused. If you guys would like to cement your nightmares, whether they are screenplays, short films, or feature films, links are going to be in the descriptions below. And shout out to our sponsors for this year's festival in Convicted Printing, Diabolical DVD, and Fierce Literature. You guys can find all of their links as well down below, and where you can also find out ways to be featured as another sponsor for this year. I'm going to put this disclaimer right up front. This is going to be talking about M3GAN. We are going to be discussing it this Wednesday on our horror podcast, Abyss Gazing, a horror podcast. Wherever you guys get your podcast from, simply search Abyss Gazing, and it'll be dropping this Wednesday. Full-length, spoiler-filled trailers, all the weird AI comparisons, conspiracy theorist conversations are going to be held on that, wherever you guys get your podcast from. And if you want to hear it before anyone else, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/victims and villains, or click the links in the descriptions below. And without further ado, let's talk about M3GAN. M3GAN is the latest horror movie from James Wan about the TikTok sensation turned soon to be a 21st century horror icon, hopefully. The movie tells the story about a young girl who loses her parents. She goes to live with her aunt, played by Allison Williams, who just happens to be a tech genius. And basically, Allison Williams creates this AI life-sized robot for her niece, and, well, deadly events pursue in trying to keep said niece's safety. If the plot of this movie sounds familiar, it's because we've already covered another movie like this, I don't know, 4 years ago, when they decided, let's remake Chucky, and Child's Play 2019 was born. Yeah. So the first thing that I want to say about this movie, just to kind of get it out the air, the concepts and the setup for this movie, they're all familiar. As I was watching this, there's so much about the way that this plot plays out that it's like, man, this feels like Child's Play 2019. I am one of the very few people that actually like Child's Play 2019. And I, wrestled with it the entire movie. I was like, which one's better? If you want to hear the answer to that question, I promise it'll be on the podcast. I think what's really going to help M3GAN stand out in the scope of 2023 horror is not only some of its campiness and its fun, but it's also its acting. I think its acting is probably some of the best horror movie acting I've seen in probably 5 or 6 years. Now, granted, there have been horror movies that have wowed me with their acting, but I think a film like this, as ridiculous as it is, doesn't deserve to kind of have the emotional gravitas that this movie has. The very fact that this movie addresses attachment theory, which, if you don't know about it, basically attachment theory is when a child loses a parent, they kind of cling on to the first person that kind of comes into their life and kind of attempts to fill that role, and an attachment is made. I would argue Big Time Adolescence kind of try to tackle something along these lines. It's a great movie on Hulu. But I love that this movie goes after that theory, and it's tackling things like grief and trauma, and really just how you're dressing to talk about subjects like death and the afterlife with kids. It really allows the emotional depth of this movie to be way deeper than I think any of us were expecting. You know, I came into this movie thinking, oh, cool, killer robot, like, you know, we're going to get something like Child's Play 2019, Chopping Mall. It's going to be campy, it's going to be fun, it's going to be weird. No, it's surprisingly emotional. I think really what gives it that emotional edge that actually has depth and has weight are the performances by Allison Williams and Violet McGrath. I think for me as a viewer, it's extra hard for me to emotionally respond to a child as an actor. And I don't know if that's because I grew up in the era of Good Burger and Max Keeble's Big Move and movies like that, that you have kids that just being kids and it's goofy, carefree, and, we're not really talking about things like death or depression or trauma. Then you get the era we're in now where you have legitimately compelling performances like A Quiet Place and McGraw here in M3GAN. Also, Amy Donald is the little girl that brings the body movements of M3GAN to life, and she's kind of terrifying, like just the way that she moves. Like, it definitely has like Linda Blair vibes in certain spots in this movie, and I really respected that because I love The Exorcist. Plus, they made it like really kind of creepy, but also on the flip side of that, Jenna Davis plays the voice of M3GAN and also does a really good job. This movie has a lot of also unexpected comedy that I just wasn't expecting. Like, I knew this was kind of campy, coming off of Malignant. A lot of it was really divisive, kind of felt like a throwback to the Giallo era. And this one, again, it's just a lot of fun, and with that fun, you have a lot of unexpected comedy that just kind of takes you by surprise, and that's truthfully the best kind of comedy. I think the horror aspects of this one as well, kind of, honestly, a little bit weak for me. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like that's kind of controversial to say. I think the gags in this movie, from a horror perspective, work really well. I think some of them are really creative. I think most of them are really creative, really creepy. But I think for me, because I've seen movies like this, whether I previously mentioned Child's Play 2019, Chopping Mall, the whole idea of AI becoming self-aware and then kind of going on a killer spree. We've seen it before, and so it made a lot of the horror elements really predictable, but that predictability was kind of thrown off, or at least thrown for a curve, because of the gags and the creativity. So it's kind of like offset. So it feels like an even balance, so to say. Pacing in this movie is done fairly remarkably well. This movie never feels like it drags. It never feels like it overstays its welcome. I feel like this has the perfect length for what the story is trying to tell. Honestly, I would have loved to see an R-rated version of this movie, and maybe possibly an extended cut, because I wanted a little bit more from the horror aspect of it, but it's a campy movie. It really works as a drama. So let's go on this through our Rorschach rating scale. Never thought I would be kicking the year off with a movie this strong, but here we are. I'm going to go ahead and give M3GAN a 4 out of 5. I think this movie is really strong. The acting is strong all across the board. Kid actors in this are truly compelling and creepy. The movie's campy. It's paced well. And overall, it's really fun, and it has its funny moments. So if you guys have seen M3GAN, what did you guys think about it? What is your favorite robot, self-aware type movie like M3GAN? Comment below and let me know. But let's talk about some mental health. If you guys are new to this channel and new to our content, Mental Health Moment is where we take a theme of mental health from the film of which we're talking about, and we talk about it in a minute just to hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. And while I feel like there is a lot of things that can be spoken about the way that this film uses grief and trauma, I would also dare to say that this movie speaks volumes even more about how technology specifically affects our mental health. As I talked about previously, this film explores a theory called attachment theory, which, again, I've explained previously, but I thought it was really fascinating that attachment theory in this type of setting actually goes after the relationship between our technology and how we process that as a form of coping with grief. While this movie is a lot of fun, it really is a blast. This movie is a cautionary tale about what happens if we do actually spend too much time with technology. The emotional attachment and the unhealthy habits that can actually come from it. And one of the things in particular to talk about and to address this would actually be the character that Violet McGraw plays in this. There's a scene in this movie towards the probably tail end of the second act where Katie has M3GAN removed from her and essentially goes through withdrawal symptoms similar to an addict. And from someone who literally for his day job spends 8 hours at a computer and then another 30 to 40 hours a week creating content like this that you're watching right now, I definitely understand the emotional attachment and the weariness that technology has on my mental health. And I also understand that there are days where I legitimately need to be away from it because I know that it's going to be better for me. And there are going to be days that I am legitimately fixated and I'm waiting for someone to like something I just posted on Instagram, or waiting for people to respond to the videos and the reviews that we're posting here on YouTube, or comment on Facebook, or retweet something. Like, there are moments and there are just times where like it's absolutely like that's all I'm fixated on. And that is such a damaging place for your mental health to be. Like, I love interacting with you guys and I love creating content here, but there are some times where I feel like it gets wrapped up and it literally becomes my identity. And it again, M3GAN felt like looking into a mirror at certain points where it's like, man, like I've been there and I've allowed technology to affect my mental health to this capacity. Sometimes unplugging things literally does wonders for you, and you know, as far as science go, at least from what I've read, we don't truly understand the full legit longevity of what technology or what social media actually does to our brain chemistry. Now, I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, please provide me research in the comments below. But again, I hope this is an encouragement to you guys watching this right now. Just understanding that sometimes unplugging and just being present in the moment will be tremendously helpful when you guys are interacting for your relationships, your marriages, you know, whatever, and really yourself as well. And as always, if you or someone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, click the links in the descriptions below. Check out our mental health resource library. Be sure to check out Abyss Gazing when we talk about M3GAN this upcoming Wednesday, wherever you guys get your podcast from. It'll be available Tuesday morning on our Patreon at patreon.com/victims and villains. Links are in the descriptions below. Have a good night, guys.